All right, big hey now. Happy Sunday. Happy Monday, depends where you are. And happy holidays for those in the U.S. Another 3-day weekend for most people. Most people. All right. So what's the big news today, man? Oh, well, this is pretty rare. I'm pretty excited about this. We're seeing a buy signal for HEX on Pulse Chain. Pretty rare. Last time we had one of these was way back over here in September 24. And, a little bit before that in August of 24, you can see that the buy signals had come in down at these lows at 0.003. And we're approximately at 2x right now, up from there, or 2x or so at 0.008. And when the buy signal came in, the run up right after that was all the way to almost 2 pennies. 2 pennies. I'll buy that for $1. So yeah, I mean you can't always count on them playing out exactly like this, but buy signals these are very long time frames. 300, well, I say very long time frames, but 350-day moving average is what we're looking at. And for those who are wondering, you can go do some research on this. This is what is called the golden ratio multiplier, and it's a GRM, which is used. It's like the pi. It's like a version of the pi indicator, and so we use that a lot on Bitcoin, right? And so I've just applied it over to our tokens as well on Pulse Chain. It does give some pretty interesting results when I do that, and I look at that info. And so, yeah, so we're seeing that now. And so if this is to play out again, maybe we would see, 2 or 3x from here over the coming month or two. I know I've been hearing some other influencers out there talking about great things coming in the next month, the month of June. And so you can add this to the list. I know Access Alive's been talking about that. And I know that Crypto 7 has talked about it. Sami has talked about it. A lot of people have been talking about it. And in the case of HEX, because of the setup of LP and how the HEX is being taken off the market, slowly but surely bought up. I mean, it makes sense that we could be in a spot here that this could really go crazy. Well, let's see what happens. I guess we'll watch and see. As always, just watching. Just watching. Duke of Booze, good to see you. Beached Whale, yeah, it would be about time. It's nice to see it if it was to go up and to the right a little bit more. You can see from the action, though. I mean, all the way back from the beginning of April, it's been on that slant going up. Condor, good to see you. Hex Wizard 369. Anybody uses 369, send in the signal. It's the bat signal. I see Tam out there. Good to see you, Tam. All right, so let's get into it. So this is what we're looking at for HEX on Pulse Chain. Let's go take a look at HEX on Ethereum. No buy signal. Similar type of shape over the last month, though, in terms of what the pattern looks like. You can see that as I pan screens, very, very closely tied in liquidity, and of course closely tied with Ethereum as well. Looking at Bitcoin, same old on the GRM, just moving up and to the right. When we look at these things, you can kind of see like what this might play out to be. I'd have to pull up a different one to show you the buy signals that had come in on that earlier, because this is a repost view only of a chart that I'd saved. But typically when we see those buy signals come in, it's a long time frame kind of play. Ethereum, we did have a buy signal back here in May that had come up, and we see the price for Ethereum jumped about $700 to today, something like that, from that buy signal. XRP had a reversal. XRP's been on this chart, I knew was a reversal. and momentum that it should be heading in the upwards direction, but it is not. It's really clinging to the 111-day moving average. And then looking at Pulse also had a buy signal back here in May, back on the 5th of May, about 20 days ago, and up quite a bit, 30, 40, 50%. So those buy signals come in handy. I don't do the trading, but I'm watching this for the long term, right? The long term, which is we'll also get signals for sells and reversals when we hit something like a blow-off top. And so just watching for that. Taking a look at HEX and the tracked volume that I see out there, about 1.6 million. It's a little bit, that's a lot of, that's actually about, that's more than 10% of the overall volume on chain is going through HEX or EHEX. So that continues. And top performing pairs, not unexpected, this would be the case, would be the HEX Pulse, EHEX Pulse, anything tied with DAI seems to get a lot of movement, that type of thing. And then, so we see this happening. So, alive and well, as far as what people are doing. Let's take a look here. Oh, I left Tam up here. Scrubhead, good to see you. Hex Farmer, T-shares. That's it. Mike's asking, is there a light at the end? There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Always light at the end of the tunnel. Need to be more upbeat. I do. I think we do. But this is crypto. It can beat you down a little bit, but we are going up for sure at some point. But then we'll go down, and then we'll go up, and then we'll go down. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. All right, taking a look at the 30-day look ahead for the T-Share Rate. Yeah, hey guys, it's doing exactly what it did last week, up and to the right, very slowly. 30-day, we're still showing getting close to 42,000 hex per T-share. On the 60-day, we do expect to exit 42, start moving towards 43,000 hex per T-share. On the 90-day, we still wouldn't have made it. We start going out a little bit further. You see these big flat spots there at the ends. What that's all about are we have very old stakes that are going to create new T-share rates, and we haven't quite yet had a new stake made that's supposed to end in these periods. And so right now it looks like it'll be flat, but what'll happen is the shorties will come in. They'll do some number of stakes, probably more on Pulse Chain than on the Ethereum side. And when they do their stakes, they'll increase it ever so slightly. So we won't actually have a flat spot in August. What'll happen is this will get filled in with a little upward momentum, a little bit of changes over time. And kind of bridge this gap until we get the next stake that'll make the biggest change. Let's go out to 120. 120, we definitely are almost, I said we're approaching 43,000. We'll almost be at 43,000, almost 120 days out. But at the end of the year, I'm expecting around 45K. 45,000 hex per T-share. This is pretty important, I think, for those who are staking. I think it's important for those who are staking because you don't have the same reward power that you used to have, and so being able to keep up with your T-shares is very hard. And so this is definitely a game of belief long term. Do you believe in HEX? Do you believe in staying staked, having a ladder? Do you believe in the use case of HEX, which is the staking ladder? Now in the past, I leaned a lot more towards being nearly 100% staked, and just keeping a small amount of HEX liquid. Some people I know have talked about keeping 10% of their HEX liquid, 20% of their HEX liquid, etc. So I'm leaning a lot more towards that camp at this point, because I don't know what's going to happen and how quickly things might happen. I don't know if this is going to be an extended cycle. I know a lot of people talking about it into 26. And I don't know if it's going to end at the end of 25 and we have a blow off the top before Christmas, after Christmas. Don't know. And so what will happen? You guys tell me what's going to happen. Put it in the chat. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But that being the case, I'd like to be. I'd like to have availability of HEX at that time, and so definitely not thinking 100% staked at this point. This kind of goes back to some stuff that Richard has said as well in the past about HEX in interviews. Price appreciation is much stronger than staking rewards, right? At least in the near term. Now, does that mean I don't believe in staking? No, I do. I'm pretty bullish about it. And I'll show you some more data here in a minute. We're just seeing the amount of HEX staking continue to plummet. And so I'd like to stay and have my exposure to that. If we go out to 27, we start seeing 45 by the end of this year, 49, 50,000 by the end of next year in 26, and by the end of 27, looking at something like 54,000 HEX per T-share. By then, we do begin to see kind of a falling off of the increases, right? Because remember, a lot of these increases are based on stakes, right, that were made in the past. And now that the reward level has come down, the way the calculation works is it takes into account how much HEX you earned, right? So how much HEX you had been rewarded. So when those stakes end, because you're getting a lot less HEX, it doesn't increase the share rate as quickly. Right, still increases it, but not as quickly, and so you can see clearly even on this this screen here using the models that I have up, which is one is just the it's just the estimates that I have based on based on current payout, which is the new share rate estimate, which is the lowest one. And then we have an F2 and an F1 and F2 estimate. These are forecasts, so they're guesses about how much HEX will actually be restaked and how many T-shares will be recreated. So yeah, I mean, looking all the way out into 2040, perhaps we'll be at 80,000, but you can see, based on these projections. Now, these numbers will all be different, guys, right? So they're not going to be these numbers exactly, but you can just see the slope of the change once we get out to 29 and 30, changing dramatically. Now, if for some reason we see huge adoption of HEX and staking, this will change even further. And if for some reason we see huge amounts of capitulation, emergency end stakes, it'll change in the other direction. So what would happen if we see tons of end stakes? There would be less T-shares taking up the pool. If there's less T-shares taking up the pool, there'll be more HEX rewarded per T-share, which will make the rate go up higher, right? And the opposite is true. If we have tons of new stakers that come in, the payouts will actually not go up as fast, right? And if the payouts aren't going up as fast, then the T-share rate won't go up as fast, which is what we saw with the OA. I mean, that was, clearly no one has as much HEX as the OA had to stake, but you can see the changes here. And so, just what's crazy about this is opportunity. This is probably the best chart maybe to speak to. You can see the rate going up into 2030, right? You can see it on the screen. It's going up into 2030, right? And so you see it going up, and you see the rate that it's going up. Well, during this period of time, the non-OA controlled T-shares that need to be recreated aren't going to be recreated. They're not. They can't be. They can't be recreated, which means only those people who are staked and have their T-shares will be the ones that'll win that race, that part of the race, anyways. Because the rate, what's a good way to explain it? The rate of reward every day that the T-share rate goes up in this kind of a slope, it's harder and harder for you to get near the same number of T-shares. And so while it's always true that you have to put at least some additional value in or go out longer to get the same number of T-shares, it's just making it even harder, right? Because the way it works today, well, it has always worked and will work in the future, is even if you took all of the HEX that you had gotten as a reward and all of your principal, and you restaked it for the same number of days, you cannot get more T-shares. You cannot, right? It's just the way the calculation works. And that's because as you're ending a stake, right, that's the calculation that's in place. So it increases the T-share rate, if necessary, based on those factors, right? How many days you were staked and how much HEX you had put in and what your rewards were. And so invariably you push the chart, the T-share rate chart, against yourself, so you cannot get the same amount. So now people that are coming in that are doing shorter stakes, not even long stakes, right? They're getting the higher T-share rate, but earning much less in terms of HEX. So yeah, going up into the right, I think it's gonna make it super bullish. I just have to watch, right? I mean, what else is there to do? You pick your plan, how you want to participate, and if you want to participate, and you go for it. Looking at the drawdown over the last month, about 56% on the Ethereum side of the T-shares have not been recreated. So we're just looking at day over day, how many T-shares have ended versus how many have been created or started. We're seeing a drop of about 56% on the Ethereum side, and on the Pulse chain side, about 38%. So pretty significant drop percentage wise. So if 100, example on Pulse chain, if 100 T-shares end, only 62 are being recreated, roughly. Only 62. And so the T-shares are going away. And what that means is that the OA share of the T-shares is going up, right? Their share is going up. The number isn't going up unless they do some more staking. But, their percentage, their rewards is going up. And so that just means more and more of the HEX is going into the OA and not to the general users that are participating. So pretty crazy, right? I mean, it's long time scales, 15-year cycles, right? So a lot of us, it's really hard to mentally even get your head around what this looks like. Not to mention who's real, even though I say that I'm thinking about 15 years out from now, am I really? I mean, in a sense I am. I'm looking at 15 years. I'm looking at, what's going to happen in 4 years, what's going to happen in 8 years, 12 years, 15 years, right? But am I really conceptualizing that so much more can happen in the next 4 years or 8 years? And so a lot of people really focused on the now. And when you're looking at the charts, particularly the T-share rate and stuff, those numbers are low, right? I mean, it's like if we go back and look at one of these things that I was looking at, I mean, we're looking at the 30-day. Maybe this is probably where most people's capacity is in the 30, 60, 90 day. I mean, we're talking about, how exciting is it that the T-share rate on Pulse chain is going to go up from 41,640 to 41,820. There aren't a whole lot of people going to be running around in the streets talking about that, right? Like, oh my God, this is awesome, right? It's just slow, right? And so it's boil the frog territory for sure. But like Fest Abdul says, he's here for the tech. And what we're doing is just looking at the T-share stuff and saying, hey, this tech anyways works the same every day. It hasn't changed. We go look at the T-share counts. You can see that the T-share counts are coming down. As discussed, right? Just slowly but surely coming down into the right. And that's, again, that's the people that are ending their stakes and they're not recreating T-shares. Looking at our distribution going into the future on PHEX, nothing's really changed here. It really can't with the OA being involved the way it has. So the distribution is going to be pretty similar. We haven't seen capitulation in 29 and 30 yet on either Ethereum or Pulse Chain, right? And why do I bring up 29 and 30 is on this chart, well, it looks kind of small, but if I take out the 2040 numbers, you can see that these are big numbers, right? And for those who may not be aware of it, what we had, I'm not going to go get the OA information, but let me see if I pick a good color. Let me clear that, and let's go to red. Whatever color, pink, purple that is, pretty good. So what we had seen is if we were looking into 26 and 30 here, I want to go to a line instead. Let's do that. So if we had been going into 26 and 30, the user controlled T-shares actually would have come down like this. I guess that's not a good one either. Let me do this. I'll do a little curve. So what I would have expected is, the shape would have been something like this. We would have had a little drawdown, and when we look at our 30 into 31, it kind of looked like this as well before. Something like that. But what happened was the OA came in and did these additional stakes for these years in the ladder. And so now it kind of looks like it's all the same, it's all really similar, but it is overall, but not for the OA, right? So if we take the OA out, then we still have these two big towers in 29 and 30 that are here. And so these years, we have all these T-shares out here are going to be big years for us users who are staking, right? So those are big years, and of course it applies right now because these are the stakes that are now greater than 50% progress. That could be emergency end staked, maybe could be emergency end staked without hurting the principal too much that was originally put in. And every day that goes by, these people could be rewarded greater if they were an emergency end stake. Now, last I checked, it would be something like I can pull that chart up maybe later, but it was something like 30 billion, HEX, but only 5-6 billion maybe would come out to the users, right? And the rest would be all emergency end stake penalties, half of which goes to the OA off the top. The other half gets distributed to the stakers. And of course, 90% of the staking is being done by the OA. So the OA would get a lion's share of that. So a lot of control over that. All right, HEX T-shares, the profile looks very similar on HEX as HEX on Pulse Chain. Same type of distribution. Again, a lot of this is based on the fork, right? So if I exclude 2040, you see a little bit different here. I'd have to go look at this and see what happened here. Because I took out 2040. I wonder if this is updating in the background. It may be updating and I got a different number here. Plus, we've been having some problems with the graphs on the HEX side. Yeah, that looks way out of whack. But if somebody has some knowledge of this, go take a look and let me know if they think that I think this is wrong. Last time I looked at it, it was very similar. So, and I haven't seen capitulation on the HEX. So let's ignore this HEX T-share chart for the moment. We'll see how it updates after the graph gets up to date. All right, let's see. All right, Quattro Cinco starts. So looking at Quattro Cinco starts on the Pulse chain, April, we had about, and these are Quattro Cincos that haven't ended, so nobody emergency unstaked them. 1,562-ish T-shares created in April. We're down to 725 created this month, and the month's about ready to wrap up. So I'm going to guess we're not going to see as many T-shares created in May as April. So again, just representative of that downturn and the number of T-shares being created, and in the interest in long staking. Now I've seen some airdrops go out to Quattro Cinco stakers, and so I see that going on. I do see HSIs getting staked, which are usually Quattro Cinco, but not always. But demand for doing Quattro Cinco staking is way off. Now, one of the things that may change this would be the Rev 2 of the Hedron system, if that comes out, and when it comes out. That's something that Alex has said he's been working on. Alex from Hedron. Haven't seen it yet. Don't have any details. Don't know that if anybody has any inside knowledge, share it with me if you got it. I'd love to see that. Know what was going on. So that may change things and drive demand for staking HEX Quattro Cinco. At this point, because I have a ladder already in place, I'm not interested in anything other than Quattro Cinco staking. Maximizes everything that I have within my ladder. That's the only thing I'm interested in doing, is rolling to a Quattro Cinco. That being the case, I've softened my my opinion on which way to do Quattro Cinco staking. I mean, you do have Stakehouse out there, which are pooled stakes. You have that ability. You have HSIs where you can earn the Hedron directly, and you can do that. But you also have HSIs with Actuator, as an example. That's one of the protocols I've talked a lot about. They're getting some adoption over there, but they're also going to be a function of what people are doing with HEX. Now, the cool thing about Actuator is that you can go into Actuator with HEX and actually earn additional APR in the farms. And of course, if you're swapping for the Actuator HEX time tokens, those tokens are HEX in the future, so you're kind of like doubling down. But that's a way to take value as well and borrow it out of your HSIs, so that's an option. And of course, we have other protocols on the system, like Flex, and where you can actually use the liquidity fork, similar to liquid loans and the ink printer, etc., and take your HEX and put it in there on Pulse chain. So there's different ways you can utilize that. The HEX, but I do think the demand will pick up, and when it does pick up, it'll probably be mostly for Quattro Cincos, right? Which will mean most flexible of that would be to use HSIs. Though I suppose there would still be a bunch of people doing native, I'm sure. Now, native will get you the Communist token, right? So if you're into that and you're interested in the Communist token, you get that as a reward for doing these long stakes as well, which is another angle, right? So there's lots of different ways that you can participate in HEX. But yeah, we're definitely into what I would call belief territory, right? We have a new litmus test. Do you believe? Do you believe in HEX? And if you don't, you don't. If you do, then perhaps you're using it as designed. And and it's hard to make an argument for anybody, to do the staking. You really have to believe in the system long term, like 15 years, right? Type of thing. And so yeah, I get a lot of pushback from people on the staking. It's like, do you take $1,000 out, or take $1,000 worth of value, go put it into HEX and stake it, not knowing what's going to happen with price? Or do you keep it liquid and speculate? Now, here's the cruel secret. It's not really a secret. but it's something Richard's talked about for a long time. The secret is this: is for HEX to be successful, for any crypto to be successful, you need users, right? But you need speculation, you need traders, you need people who are going to hodl, and you also need stakers in the case of HEX. To varying degrees, right? You need all that. You have no transfer of value unless people are buying into a token. And one of the best ways, and one of the only ways in crypto that people are attracted to things, is through speculation, right? And that's how that transfer of value is, right? And so the whole idea about staking is, and you've probably seen people talk about it before, but it's about protecting yourself from yourself. You know, for those of you who have unstaked and not restaked, think about what you did with your tokens, right? Sure, there's some people who probably held on to them, right? But a lot of them, it's something that's in your wallet, and you can go push a button, and maybe you pushed the button and did something that helped, or maybe you did something and now you have less tokens, you know, at a different value. You went into something with them, and now you have a lot less of them, you know, or a lot less value, and you can't get back to the HEX. So very similar to what's happened with the farms on Pulse Chain. We had an awful lot of Pulse and PulseX locked up in there, not to mention some of the other tokens. And with the yield coming down, and kind of like this idea that it was time to pull out of the farms, right? And because you're not getting, you know, your impermanent loss replaced with ink. A lot of people pulled out of the farms. I'd be curious if we can't do it, I don't think, because it's just so much data. But maybe somebody could do it. I mean, if you did a study and go see what people did with their Pulse, what'd they do with it? Some people, sure, they just left it in the wallet. Let's say they were in the farms, they pulled it out. But a lot of people now, they got Pulse. What'd they do with it? Probably went and swapped it for a bunch of stuff. And it probably wasn't HEX. Yeah, some people did, I'm sure, but you know, other people no. And so I would bet you that the folks who pulled out of the farms are probably a lot worse off now, because they probably squandered that value into a different direction, right? Because that's what crypto is about, is that speculation. All right, taking a look at the just my opinion, guys. You know, obviously not financial advice, and I'm also one of those people pushing buttons, right? All right, so taking a look at HEX stakes on the Ethereum side, average stake length is still 9 years, a little bit over 9 years on the Pulse Chain side. To be expected, this is measuring the open stakes, and so if they're ended, they're not included. And which ones have ended? The short ones. The short ones. Right? So those are the ones have ended. When we look at the average staking length of new stakes, you can see we dropped down again and have been kind of dropping down. But other than the OA stakes really creating this upward number of 12.5 on the Ethereum side and 7.8 years on the Pulse Chain side, the average stake being made, if we were to average them, 3.2 years on Ethereum and 2.4 years on the Pulse Chain. So lowest numbers ever, pretty close. I guess in the Ethereum we had maybe a little bit lower, but and because we have a different distribution of users, the ones who are on the Ethereum side are tended to be a little bit longer minded, because they're thinking long term. They're going to have that opportunity with the HEX, and they just want to have the longer stakes in there. But on the Pulse Chain side, it is at the lowest you could be. I was curious to see if it drops any further from 2.4 years. Probably go up, because I would guess, because the more people who fade staking of HEX, the more long-minded they would be. So perhaps we'll see it research. All right. So if you guys got questions, drop them in the chat. Let me go back over here and look at those other charts, see where we're at. I don't think anything's really changed in the last few minutes. So I started off by talking about this this buy signal on the golden ratio multiplier that had come in, and how today it looks like we're printing a buy signal, which is based on 350-day moving average type stuff. So what that might look like is if this follows through. The market doesn't always follow through, right? I mean, you can see the buy signal back here, and we actually went down again, you know, another amount, but the second buy signal went up. You know, it's just saying what are the chances relatively based on the action. Is price going up or is it going to go down? So we had that one in August, another buy signal a month later. Then the market was ready to drive it back up. Perhaps we see something similar to that. What I would be looking for is a reversal in the direction of the 111-day moving average up towards the 350 to get across. And I would, you know, right now, I would be looking at this once it does that cross to then come up and test the 1.6 and then the 2x of the 350-day moving average on HEX, and then see where it goes from there. Perhaps it'll go much higher. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now. And just historically with the GRM buy signals, they've generally turned out to be pretty good indicators of what's going to happen in the future. But not always, right? Well, then that's the problem with crypto, right? If we all knew that it was exactly going to happen that way, then we would know exactly to buy right now, right? So for those accumulating, but yeah, we have been making higher lows, right? You know, at least on the daily chart here, for about a month or so almost 2 months. But that actually looks like a pretty bullish formation to me. All right, guys. Well, I don't see anything else in the chat that needs to be answered. We took a look at our T-share rates. We took a look at the volumes going on. You know. Knowing that the hex pairs are running about, you know, greater than 10-12% of the overall volume on chain, so they're clicking away. I always just like keeping an eye on this stuff to see where the volume's coming in, and what's actually dominating overall in the chart. So I have this top 10 list that I follow, for instance, by volume. It tells me exactly what pairs are hot on the chain. And once in a while, something like the OG pairs will sneak in here from the OG printer system. You know, sometimes some of the other ones will be there, but you can always see the normal ones that are out there, that are always out there, that are always getting the most volume. And the DAI continues to be one of those. PDAI continues to spin, you know, pretty fast actually, you know, at 0.82. You know, the speed of pulse, I peg it at being about 0.11. It might be a little higher than that, but just using it as my thumb rule. So 0.8 means it's, you know, running about 6 to 7 times faster than pulse. You also see up in the top 10 wrapped Ethereum from Ethereum, you know, USDC from Ethereum. Of course, PulseX is a good bet. Wrapped Bitcoin, you know, Purple Bitcoin, also in the top 10. So these things aren't, you know, some of these things aren't going to go away, you know. Because they have so much liquidity tied in the system. And so really, you know, when we've had these discussions, and some people call them debates and arguments, right? We complain about what's happening with the PDAI and wrap Bitcoin stuff. The only way to remove them from the system is to remove them from the system, right? So as long as people, because it's DeFi, and unlike some of the other chains, right, we can't just blacklist things. It just doesn't happen that way, right? So that being the case, right, They're just going to be here. They're with us. They're with us, whether we like them or not. Redheaded stepchild, you know, cousins of cousins, whatever. I mean, they're here with us, right? So yeah, it's just gonna that'll continue until the liquidity goes away, and it's not going away. Well, it hasn't yet, anyways. But we have that. So yeah, the top 10 stables, core tokens, and then PDI and Purple Bitcoin. Those are the ones that I see in the top 10, and that's pretty common, like daily type of thing that I've seen. Let's take a look what else I got here. Just give you an idea of speed wise. This one shows up pretty good for speed. If I can do top 10 in speed pairs, again, these are pairs that move fast. You can see the OG ecosystem dominating in this, and then Symmetropa. And yeah, you know, that's because there's a lot of mechanical bot processes going on out there. Just kind of like moving through the system. It causes speeds to be increased, and that's the speed is the ratio of volume to the LP in the pair. There's like remember versus pulse is running 1.74, and I remember most things are like 0.05, right? So this is like 50 times, 40 times, 50 times faster than everything else. Dominance is another one that's out there. These are reward tokens out of that ecosystem. The PDI printer hasn't gone away. It's running pretty high, even though liquidity is pretty low. I only limited this to $1,000, so it shows up even with a $3,000 pool. Again, that wrap Bitcoin, Purple Bitcoin at 149, Beast, Miser. So you can see some of the different things that are happening in the system, and BFF, which is out of the Atropa ecosystem at 1.37 in speed. So all these are very high speeds tokens. Now I use that for when I'm trying to generate additional volume for pairs. I look at whether it makes sense to actually create pairs with the things that move the fastest. Sometimes it works out. It's not always like a 100% rule that because you tie with something that moves fast, you'll move fast. But sometimes. Look at the 9mm. This 9mm. This picture. This is a V3 pool. Yeah. B3 DI 212% APY. It's a little misleading at times when we look at liquidity pools like that, because they may be very one-sided and in terms of value. But one of the ways you can check that is you can come look at the pool DI numbers for each of the tokens and what the dollar value is. Dollar value is fairly close, so somebody's probably using this for exit or entry, but they're still pretty close. And what that means to me is that if somebody wanted to go in with a rather tight range, DI to EDI, here's an example. It must have done this at one point. I'm not actually providing a position here, but you can see that there are times where it runs in a very tight range, and so the people who are in that tight range, at least on the daily, the APR was over 200% annualized. Doesn't mean that they were in 200% today, but generating fees that way. And let's go take a look at that pool quick before I jump off. Go back over here and grab my pool address. Get the pair. Go over to my track pairs. Drop this in here. See what I got for pair. Here's the pair. 212% over 24 hours. So this is a V3. That's $158 in fees paid to that pool in the last 24 hours, estimated. And the fee percentage is also a high fee percentage, 2% pool. So that would again account for why some of these numbers are as high as they are. If I go, I wonder if I have any other EDI pairs. Okay. Yeah. So you can see the V3 was at the 200%, but now the straight up V2 on PulseX still doing pretty good in the last 24 hours, 59%. In a world where many times we're looking at sub, 2%, 3% for a pair. And this again goes, this is another, not saying go buy PDI. I'm saying is somebody likes PDI, so they're continuing to provide liquidity, and other people are trading with it. And the pool earned 59% just on V2. Or it's earning 59% just on V2. Of course, that's today. It could be less tomorrow, more tomorrow, whatever. But and then I see the C die, the compound die, keeps popping up as well as having a lot. But there's not much liquidity on that out there. Well, anyways, so yeah, fun with numbers, fun with pools, and seeing what's what out here. All right. With that, I will actually end now. Let's go see if we have any questions here. All right. I see Tim. Tim, how are you, my friend? I hope you're enjoying yourself. I don't even know what the season is where you are. Archie, good to see you. Red Squirrel, Condor. I don't know if it's a complaint or not. I don't remember what we were talking about. But nobody complaining is good, I guess. I see checks my pulse here as well. And what is shaking? And the big news is, hey, if you've been holding back, we got a bicycle on the old HEX on Pulse chain. So might be an opportunity now to get in and pick up some of that HEX. Oh, checks. This is a good question. So is there any way to see accurate circulating supply of HEX after the OA stakes? Very difficult. I'm thinking about how I want to actually try to measure that. The difficulty is this. Even in the beginning when we had away stakes, I mean, it was tenuous at best, identifying the addresses that are away related addresses. And so even then we had several thousand addresses that you need to watch and keep up to date. And now that the number of those addresses has increased very, very, very many. Ben Sierra's got a list of them, but even his list, comes with a caveat. We're not sure. We don't know. So we can isolate some of them out, but I think probably the right thing to do, even though I want to know about the OA, maybe GoPulse or some of these other systems will be able to figure out what that list is, and we'll be able to track it. But I keep coming back to well, maybe it's not important really. I mean, maybe it's just enough to know that the OA controls a large majority of the HEX, and that it's in quote unquote safe hands. Maybe that's where we need to go, with this thing, and then just make our decisions. At least for myself when I'm doing my analysis at a higher level. Yeah. And as far as what a guess would be, I think we're still in the same realm that we've always been. We're probably in that 10% region is user controlled HEX, and lowering as a guess. This is what I would guess would be something in that way, shape, or form. And that doesn't mean liquid HEX, right? It just means HEX in general. Who controls the most HEX is still going to be the OA. So I'm sorry I don't have an answer for that, but I'll try to think about how I could actually nail that down a little bit further. Back when I had I had what I felt was a pretty good representation of the OA holdings. I could really, I had what I called a scarcity set. And I could see the scarcity of HEX going down, or a scarcity going up with the number of HEX available in system circulating going down. And it's the OA acts as with both staking and holding of HEX, acts as huge stabilizer, and of the system. And so that, yes, while HEX does change hands and it gets staked between users and all this stuff, the band that it operates in is very tiny compared to the overall. So a good area for study for sure. And, well, like I said, at this point, I don't even know what all those addresses are. And that's the problem, right? Like there's not a name tag on them. So you have to divine. This goes all the way back even from the original list. You sort of have to divine what addresses are connected, together. Even the original list that I worked on with Gunther, he did a lot of eyeballing of actual addresses, and the eyeballing of the addresses was to kind of figure out, okay, what, it was this OA or not, and so he would decide, he would make a guess and say, yeah, this one looks like it, smells like it, must be it, right? So then we would tag it as OA, but again, that's all kind of blown out of the water. Oh, good point. Boop, boop, boop. I'm gonna say there. Yeah, Sami did a video response to a guy on Twitter on this subject, by the way, like a 5-minute response. You can find it on Sami's Twitter, but yeah, it's kind of like along these lines. So you're asking, hey, people say market cap on circulating supply prevents higher prices. Is that accurate? No, it's not accurate. Does it prevent? No, it does not, right? Because there's no functional way to prevent it. But it does, like, there's no direct tie. Like, I mean, that's like saying, Bitcoin can never go to 240,000 because the market cap will be too high, right? But it does affect people's perceptions of what they'll do. And usually it works out poorly for them, right? Like there was a time when Bitcoin was less than $1 billion, right? And in market cap, I remember that time. And it could never get bigger, right? And so it will chill people out and, give a chilling effect, and then they won't get in, right? So that's the danger of that. So it can delay things, but then that kind of makes things more organic, right? Because you can get past some of the litmus tests, like circulating supply. Now, the Sami was saying, hey, well, listen, if the market cap, and what do we think the market cap is? What does Dex Screener think the market cap is? We use our numbers. So just anecdotally, if I go to HEX, I probably have it on the other chart, don't I? But I'll just pull up HEX real quick and see what I show here for on Pulse Chain HEX V1 here. So we're showing a market cap of 4.83 billion, right? And I think Sami was using some information from maybe GoPulse or somewhere else, but 4.83 billion times 0.1, I could have done this in my head, right? 10% would be something like 480 million is the actual market cap of user controlled HEX. If I'm just using my 10%, but knowing that a lot of that is also locked up into stakes, right? It's not accessible, 483 million. And I think Sami's number was something like 680 million. Was what I remember. And so I guess it slows down the action for sure. It can definitely slow down the action. But in the end, it doesn't stop the true believers, right? So, and those are the ones who will buy the bottoms and kind of get into things. All right, let's see. B-Fam, good to see you there. People still sleeping on Actuator, no worries. I'll buy it up and get HEX and more t-shirts. Yeah, I think that the actuator protocol is very hard to understand. I don't blame the guys, you know, RJ and C3 works for that. They're the founders of that particular token. I think it's a consequence of people like need and want of using actuator at this point. Now, clearly, I can tell you this: I think that in the future, it's a huge opportunity because it kind of operates like a bond system in my mind, where I can go lock in profit, by getting HEX in the future because somebody else took a loan on their HEX, right? And so I can lock in a profit. I mean, the only way for the people to get their HSIs back after they've delegated them, they got to pay it back, which means there's deposit price pressure on the tokens, the HTT tokens. I think that's good. It's kind of cool, the methodology, but it's very, I'm judging based on the little bit of participation I've done. The numbers are kind of crazy, right? Like very, very few people getting involved. And I think even the people have a lot of HSIs. They don't realize, and it took me a while to go do something with it, right? Because I have this wallet, I got these HSIs in there that I won and or that I made, and I'm like, I don't want to do anything with them and wait and see what's going to happen with the Hedron system. And then nothing's really happened, but people have hundreds of thousands of dollars in HSIs, right? And what they could be doing is going and getting HTTs with those and then putting them into LP and earning in the farm, right? That's what they could do. And then actually get some value out of those for now. But yeah, I think it's sleeper. I long term, will we see stronger adoption? I don't know, maybe. What's crazy about that is it's like if we're talking about, I'll pull up the actuator site over here. It's like when you talk about Maxi, like Maxi being at nearly at a discount, comparatively based on the NAV. It's like, man, why wouldn't everybody just go buy Maxi? Well, there's lots of reasons, I guess, because they're not buying it, right? And but they could be buying the Maxi, right? Or the Deci, which usually runs at a discount less than one X. Now liquidity's low, so if people do start buying it up, it'll drive the price up. Maybe that's part of it, slippage wise. So I guess what I'm saying is like we've talked about this before, or a lot of the influencers have. Just because there's technology and it works really good doesn't mean people will adopt it, right? They won't just adopt it because it's good, right? There could be some reason. So like we're looking at I went to actuator.finance. I'm just looking at the actuator tokens right now. And this is for somebody who's coming in and they're not going to be staking HEX to get their actuator or to get their HTTs. But you can come in and get a HTT 5000 at a 53% discount, right, to HEX. And so you can buy a future HEX at 53% discount. And when you buy it, you are swapped for it, you're locking in 14% per year for the next 18 years, because the total return on investment is already known. You already know the total return on investment because at the end of the time frame, you get one HEX for each HTT that you created. One HTT is always one HEX in the future. So if I swap my HEX into an HTT, I even just hold it, don't do anything with it. If it's a long-term bag, it's going to be more HEX at the end, guaranteed. All locked into this protocol. And how that would work is either you would expect that the value of the HTTs will go up and kind of track the value of HEX. That's the primary LP anyways, because it'll be worth one HEX in the future. But even if the LP went away on day 5000, which would be August 10th, 2033, I could go to the protocol and just exchange it for HEX. Just redeem it for HEX. So then I'd have that. Let's look at this next one. I see Racer Quad. All right, do we need ETH to go up for our RH ecosystem to go up, in your opinion? No, we do not need ETH to go up, the RH ecosystem to go up. However, right, can't get away from the fact that these things are tied from a liquidity perspective, and that a lot of people that participated in HEX were on the Ethereum chain and have Ethereum, right? So it would be a great help if ETH went up, and would go up a lot, it would go up a lot faster for RH ecosystem to go a lot faster if ETH was to go up. But from a true false perspective, no, you don't need it to go up because other things could happen. The likelihood, though, is probably pretty low that if ETH was to shit the bed, right, and just go down, it's going to take the RH ecosystem down too. But that's not what we're seeing, right? So I don't want to spread that. I mean, what we're seeing is, based on the reports, I don't have personal knowledge and access to the information, but Wall Street's been accumulating ETH, right? My theory on that has been, and institutions and other entities, right? My theory on that from the beginning, back when they started making their moves into the L2 range and some of this other stuff, has been that ETH was converting from world computer type stuff to second store of value. You miss Bitcoin, well, now you have a second one, right? Here's Bitcoin 2 ETH, right? Because at that point, anyways, it was so expensive to do transactions. It wasn't like you're going to use it for an application long term. I mean, be sure if you got big money, maybe, but I mean, if you're playing with $100, you're not going to pay, $5, $10, $20 for gas to do everything. It just doesn't make sense. But they definitely moved in that direction. So yeah, anyways, my point is, it's been converting to a store of value type of a scenario. And as a store of value, you keep the price low as long as possible on the market. You accumulate as much of it as you can. You take it off the market and then you let it run. And then you go for the blow off top, right? I mean, this is how, assets work that are traded, right? They do that in the stock market all the time. So yeah, and we can see the reports coming in from like BlackRock and whatnot, buying up the ETH. And so when it goes, it goes. All right, let's see. Market cap last time. Let me look real quick. I'll look and see if I can find it. One cheat I have for this, I can do that. A cheating method. Go to HEX Daily Stats. Wah, wah, wah. It's probably going to be the highest market cap it ever was, right? So I go to the Ethereum side. Let's see, this is their data down here at the bottom for Ethereum. And I'll do market cap. So they're showing 111 million just on that side. So on the Ethereum side, we were showing 276 billion with a B. BN. Oh, let me go look at that again. Wanted to see what that was. Market cap, here we are. Go back down that way. All right. And so that was, September 21, which would have been right around the high. And they were showing 276 billion on this site. And then today, we're showing 111 million. But I'm guessing they must be doing something with the numbers here, right? As far as circulating market cap, I forget what their calculation was and how they used to do it. So I guess this T-share market cap's even higher. But Okay. Well, I guess that was the last question we have there. All right, guys, have a great holiday weekend. I'm going to go make me some steaks at some point. Maybe I'll go down to the gym and do that. You guys stay crispy. A little bit more streams to come, more shenanigans to come for sure. And we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. This is number 98, getting close to 100. And then we'll be off we go. We'll be in the hundreds of streams. Huh? So, all right, guys, and that's it. I'll see you next time.